I welcome you all to the session of game theory. In your daily life, you might have come across the different types of games, for example, chess, bridge, poker, etc., which involve two or more players. All these games have the character of competition and are played according to the definite rules and end in a victory of one or the other, and sometimes in a draw. After going through this video, you would be able to define a game, n-person game and a two-person zero-sum game, define a payoff matrix, understand the maximum and minimax principle, obtain the saddle point or the equilibrium point, compute the value of the game with pure strategies. Before we actually begin, I would like to tell you the game theory was developed in the 20th century. However, the mathematical treatment of the game theory was made available only in 1944 when John von Neumann and Oscar Morgenstern published their work Theory of the Games and Economic Behavior. The von Neumann's approach to solve the game theory problems was based on the minimax principle, that is, he utilized the data of minimization of the maximum losses. Most of the competitive problems can be handled by this principle. Therefore, game theory is a mathematical theory that deals with the characteristic of the competitive situations and lays emphasis on the decision-making process of the concerned parties. There are various terms which are used in game theory: games, players, play, strategies, maybe mixed or pure. There are various properties of a game. The number of competitors called players is finite. Each player has a finite number of choices called strategies. The number of choices need not be the same for each player. All relevant information, that is the different strategies for each player and the amount of gain on an individual's move strategy is known to each player in advance. Each player acts rationally to maximize his gain. A play of the game results when each player makes a set of moves according to this principle. The outcome of the play determines a set of payments which may be positive, negative or zero. We'll see it later in examples. Various types of games. If the number of players in a game is only two, then the game is known as a two-persons game, though each player may have a number of possible choices for each play of the game. A game involving n players is called an n-person game. A game of two persons in which the gain of one player is the loss of the other player is called a two-person zero-sum game. Now let us consider this example. The matrix which shows the outcome of the game as the players select their particular strategies is known as the payoff matrix. For example, suppose player A has three strategies 1, 2 and 3 at his disposal, and player Y has two strategies 1, 2 at his disposal, and the payments are made according to the following table. This means that if player A chooses strategy 1 by the first row of the table, these are the values when player A chooses the strategy 2. If player chooses the strategy 3, this can be done by selecting third row. If player B chooses first strategy, by selecting first column. If player B wants to choose this strategy 2, it can be done by choosing column 2. Now this value 3 is positive, that means player A is gaining 3 by 3, and this is if player A selects first strategy and player B selects first strategy. This is the value when player A selects first strategy and player B selects second strategy, again positive. Here this payoff matrix has negative value. This means player A receives an amount minus 4, that is the player X loses an amount 4. Note again that player B wins this amount by 4. 0, this value means neither player A gains nor player B gains. This is if player A selects third strategy and player B selects first strategy. This is when player 3 selects second strategy and player B selects second strategy. Now let us discuss this maximin and minimax principle. According to this principle, the player adopts a pessimistic attitude and plays safe. That is, his strategy is always that which results in the best of the worst outcomes. In other words, player X or player A, whatever we name it, the maximizing player decides to play that strategy which corresponds to the maximum of the minimum gain for his different courses of action. This is known as maximin principle. Similarly, the player Y, the minimizing player, would also like to play safe, and in that case he selects that strategy which corresponds to the minimum of the maximum losses for his different courses of action, and this is known as minimax principle. In other words, the maximizing player adopts the maximin criteria while the minimizing player adopts the minimax criteria for their optimal strategy. Now, for example, let us consider a game whose payoff matrix is this. From this table, it may be noted that the player A will get at least -5 if he plays the first strategy and will get at least -2 if he plays the second strategy. And out of these two strategies, he would like to play safe by adopting the strategy 2, in which he gets maximum -2 out of his minimum gains of -5 and -2. Thus, following the maximin principle, player A should choose strategy 2. Similarly, if the game is considered for B's point of view, then the maximum loss to B when he plays the first strategy is -2 and 3 and 2 when he plays the second and third strategies respectively. Now, out of these maximum losses -2, 3, 2, he would like to play safe and accordingly would select that strategy which corresponds to the minimum of the maximum losses, that is -2, which corresponds to his first strategy, and he would therefore decide to play the first strategy throughout the game. Thus, he follows the minimax principle and chooses the strategy 1. Let us discuss now saddle point, a game in which the maximum value of maximizing player is equal to the minimax value of the minimizing player is called a game with a saddle point. Accordingly, a game with saddle point is that in which both the players use pure strategies, that is, both players use the same course of action throughout the game. Thus, a saddle point is the point of intersection of the optimal pure strategies of the two players. Accordingly, a saddle point is one that corresponds to the element of the payoff matrix which is the smallest in its rows and largest in its columns. A saddle point is also known as the equilibrium point of the game. Now, what are the rules for detecting a saddle point? First of all, select the minimum of each row and encircle them. Select the maximum of each column and put a small square on them. A point which is within both the circle and the square is a saddle point. Now, it may be noted here that a matrix may not have any saddle point. In this case, the game is not a game of pure strategy. A matrix may have more than one saddle point also. In that case, the game will have more than one optimum strategy. Now, let us see this in this example. Encircle the minimum of each row in second row. Put a small square in maximum of each column. See the point of intersection where a circle and square both occur, that is the saddle point. Another example, let's put row minimum in circle row minimum, third row put small square on each maximum of the columns, and let us see the intersection of both circle and the square. There are two saddle points, A1, B1 and A1, B3. Now let us discuss the value of the game. If the maximum value of player A equals the minimax value of player B, then the game is said to have a saddle point, and the corresponding strategy are called the optimal strategy, and the amount of payoff at an equilibrium point is known as the value of the game and is denoted by V. So in this example, the value of the game is 1. I hope you all will try questions based on these. Thank you.